With the backdrop of OpenAI projecting revenue growth from 25 billion to 284 billion by 2030, we unpack what that could mean as opportunity for new entrants. Meet Ben Lerer, co-founder and managing director with Lerer Hippo, a venture firm investing successfully at the seed stage in both B2C and B2B companies. Going back to that astounding revenue projection by OpenAI of hitting 90 billion by 2030, I mean, it's hard to imagine how they're going to get there without their tentacles in many other paths than subscription revenue, right? So ad revenue obviously is probably front and center. And then e-commerce revenue, they just announced abandoning their preliminary shop through ChatGPT plans, but that certainly starts shedding light on what OpenAIs of the world are thinking about OpenAI and sort of the big model providers. Where do you see that as an opportunity for young companies? First, maybe before we get to the young companies, what does it mean for that big aggregator, e-commerce aggregator world, if model providers do get into directly into e-commerce and shopping? And number two, what could be an opening for young companies if that
Yeah.
happens?
So I wouldn't put that as an if. I think it is an inevitability that, big tech, and maybe you could put, an OpenAI, certainly aspiring to be big tech, into that category. Um, these companies are going to touch every facet of the economy. I mean, they need to go into markets that have enormous TAM. And if you really think about it, there's a new interface for how we access the web, um, and access information. And so, needless to say, anyone who has a large generalized large language model is going to be figuring out how that large language model monetizes in all different facets, and commerce is going to be one of them. I think the way that we shop is going to continue to augment and change. I actually think there's probably a really interesting window in the next few years where, as OpenAI creates more shoppable interfaces and experiences, you'll have a moment for brands to go and sort of master that canvas like you had in the early days of TikTok or the early days of Instagram ads, or going back, 12, 15 years when Facebook advertising was novel. And so you're probably actually going to have this sort of interesting arbitrage moment where a new huge channel for D2C marketing will emerge, and you're going to see some brands that get very big very quickly who sort of like win on OpenAI shopping. And you've seen that with each of the big platform shifts before it, and I think you can see it again. And by the way, the same thing will happen with Google Shopping and a massive evolution of whatever Google Shopping looks like. And I'm sure huge changes will come to the entire shopping experience that Amazon has. Amazon makes more sense for agentic shopping than just about anything, in terms of just like these recurring purchases that you buy on a regular basis that you could probably take the human entirely out of. Um, and so I think it's going to be a really interesting moment for uh, for commerce. At the end of the day, a lot of the kinds of commerce we did in the early days it was when you actually needed to go build your own technology, and like there was a technology advantage if you could go and raise enough money to hire a certain kind of developer to build a certain kind of platform and build analytics and build tools. That technology advantage went away almost entirely with Shopify and the growth of the Shopify ecosystem, and is going to go away even more with everybody having access to better and cheaper tools through this next evolution of AI tooling for commerce in every sort of nook and cranny of the industry. It's going to shift pressure back to what's the actual product that you're selling, what's the brand that you're building, what kind of unfair distribution advantages do you have as a new commerce brand. I don't think it's just as simple as make a thing that looks like an Insta, that's going to like stand out in the feed. I think you really do need to, like, the onus is going to be higher on a brand to need to actually make something that customers love.
Yeah, we always go back to that. So let me play that back to
Yeah.
you. You're saying sort of as if, not if, when these model providers get in big time into e-commerce, it opens up an opportunity for new companies to really ride the coattails of that new distribution model, if you will. I'll just use that as a shorthand. But they have to really think hard about sort of what is their core defensibility long term. What is it that they're selling? How are they selling it? Do they have a distribution advantage? All the things that we sort of know about in commerce. Speaking of commerce, you guys have a very exciting portfolio company that I think you invested in quite some time ago, which is in the delivery business. So we touched on Amazon having a big advantage in e-commerce if they get agentification. But this company and Amazon has been making a lot of news about drone delivery. But your portfolio company, Zipline, commerce to delivery at my doorstep. And so this is already very exciting stuff that is happening. It's not quite LLM shopping yet, but it is instant delivery. Tell us more about that investment.
This is an investment from one of our earlier funds that took the sort of same long winding road that many great companies take. The company sort of morphed and pivoted into going over to Africa and creating fixed wing planes, sort of gliders that delivered critical supplies across Africa in places where getting blood to a patient would take many hours, if not days, with the sort of infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure that existed. And they built a delivery network to deliver, again, these critical medical supplies. Through that, they became world class at building these different kinds of drone and sort of fixed wing devices. All of that eventually landing in them refocusing on commercialization in the US and building drones that are now being used for last mile delivery for e-commerce. Specifically now, their first big deployment is in Dallas with Walmart. And I mean, imagine going and placing the same order that you might place with Amazon for like same day delivery or Walmart for same day delivery, but instead of getting it off of a truck that goes and runs a route at some point, 8 or 10 hours later, getting it in 8 minutes
Yeah,
to your house. I mean, it's magic. It's like one of these things that is, if you go back, like my grandmother would see this and collapse on the ground and think that uh, but but a really extraordinary business. But again, with the how do you stick to it for a decade and continue to build for a world that is not real yet?
There's so much to unpack there. So phenomenal story. Started as a gaming toy, went to Africa for critical deliveries, back to the US, and now doing e-commerce fulfillment. And a giant deal with Walmart. That's not an easy deal to sign and to get. So fantastic job by the
And they've
founders.
signed
And
many of the sort of largest national retailers who are interested in getting into this business. And by the way, it'll be interesting over time to see, you know, the as a logistics company, there is the providing logistics services layer without your brand where you are powering Walmart delivery. But look what Uber Eats has gone and done, where you actually build an app and an interface around it, where at some point, is there a world where people are shopping through Zipline versus shopping through Walmart powered by Zipline? I don't know exactly sort of like how that goes, but if you have enough big brands and you have enough of an installed, you know, proprietary delivery network, you can see this becoming a really big company,
right.
like not a logistics provider, but like the front door and the back door.
That's right. So if they build their brand, directly with the consumer as that reliable delivery at my front door, at my or back step, they could then start upseating the business of some of of their initial partners. So the opportunity here could be
Yeah.
absolutely huge. Yeah, and that actually is just ties back to what you said, what we talked about earlier, which is if the OpenAIs of the world do get into the e-commerce business, this is the opening for new entrants from which
Yes.
from which you can build. Either you could be selling to the incumbents to give them the defensibility that they need against the OpenAIs of the world, or you can establish a new brand, bigger businesses with an advantage in distribution models that are not even known yet, right? That are all to come in the future.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can just think about food delivery. Imagine, why would you ever, if there's an option to get food delivery in 8 minutes that comes warm and immediate, like, you start to make choices based on that experience. Like, are you available via Zipline or not? If not, I'm not ordering you anymore. Like, get with the program. And I think it can be transformative, and it'll be interesting to see how the big, like, how vertical integration continues with the big tech companies as the company. You look back 20 years ago when you had sort of like the rise of mobile or cloud. The incumbents were not well positioned to thrive in that next sort of tech cycle. Today, the biggest companies in the world are very well set up to get a lot of, if not most, fit from AI. The Googles and Amazons and Metas, I mean, they have the data
That's right.
advantage.
That's
They
right.
have the money. And by the way, we're in a regulatory environment right now where they could probably be buyers for the first time in quite a while. It wouldn't be crazy if you started to see some very large transactions getting done. I
Mhm.
could imagine some of these companies going out. I mean, I can't speak to A, I'm not in the information flow, and B, I'm such a long-term believer in Zipline as an independent company. But like, if I was the CEO of OpenAI and I'm thinking about, 10 years out, 15 years out, what does the future of commerce look like? I probably want to own a company like Zipline.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Because they're making up for, in many ways, by really leapfrogging into the future, they're making up for some small details like inventory management that can all be figured out, right? So, so it's like go where your long-term advantage will be, leapfrog into that and the details of what the Amazons in the world Walmarts have built over the years,
Yep.
that'll fall in place. That's known recipe. But if you go after something bold like a zip line, then you're going where these guys will have a hard time going.
Yeah,
So
and by the way,
excellent,
you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
enter that space. I mean, I believe at this point, Zipline has flown more autonomous miles than both Waymo and Tesla have driven autonomous miles combined.
So Zipline has done 2 million deliveries and 125 million autonomous miles completed. That's absolutely
125
correct.
million autonomous miles. And so
That's
that
right.
that is a compounding advantage. You can't show up tomorrow and say, I think this is a
That's
fun
right.
idea. Let me go buy a drone and compete with Zipline.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, switching from warm delivery, or delivery at my doorstep to warm delivery, I think just going back to that whole OpenAI when getting into shopping, the reason they abandoned it is because it is far more complicated, right? Today, just to have the inventory data and to get stuff accurate when I check out, that ain't a simple problem. Over time, they're going to solve it. There are lots of people. I mean, Amazon has a huge advantage there, obviously built over 25 years. But for the rest of, rest of the world, it's a threat. So what you're saying is that if young companies or pure play startups want to get into this business of whether they're selling me food, healthy food, or whether they're sending me fashion, whatever, right? They have to think now in a post AI world, what truly is their advantage? True advantage here is really knowing through AI the customer extremely well, and therefore then really managing their quality of their inventory, the quantity of the inventory, their inventory sort of costs, if you will, right? Their
Yep.
asset load, if you will, through AI in a very, very precise manner that an AI native company is able to do. So gone are the days of just sort of old inventory management, old asset heavy businesses, but extreme and precise focus that AI can give you. So, right. So at least
You
that's
know,
what
it's
I
it,
heard. So you
and it's
say
it's
so. Those
interesting when you talk about the idea. You're like, what are the businesses that OpenAI will need to be in to go from 25 billion-dollar run rate hemorrhaging cash to a $300 billion top line business in 5 years. I do think that you're going to see big tech look at the biggest markets the same way that you would go back and look at the Amazon Whole Foods deal and people were like, what is going on? This is a traditional grocery store, and like one of the greatest like forward looking technology companies ever. 5 years later, 6 years later, 8 years later, it like makes perfect sense that they're together. I don't know that I see if OpenAI or Google or whatever are going to get into the business of trying to own supermarkets. But if you did, I think the way to do it would be to go and own Hungry Root rather than go and own Kroger. And
That's right.
if you just took the top of it, just knowing how many people are looking for meal planning on these large language models, and if you could really close the loop on being able to fulfill that, not by saying, here's a link to go do Instacart, but actually complete the full loop of having control over that inventory, that's the kind of place where you could see extreme scale very quickly.
That's right. That's right. So we are glimpsing into the future of many things. I 100% agree with you. There is just no way to go from 25 to 300 billion in 5 years without going after the big pockets of revenue. So ads will be displaced, e-commerce will be displaced, many others. And your point is, forget about the legacy businesses, go for the pure play AI native companies as potential acquisition targets, which
Yeah, I
really
mean,
set you up for future scale, right?
but look at Google. I mean, Google has a Zipline competitor called Wing. Google has Waymo. Look at the sort of surface area of these tech giants in terms of the
That's
other
right.
businesses that they get into. Obviously, all these companies now thinking about different versions of wearables, including what OpenAI will
Uh-huh.
do with Jonty Ive's company and whatever that will look like. You hear
Yeah,
Apple moving into a bunch of new kinds of like lighter weight wearable hardware that you would never have imagined Apple being a company that would be interested in. Um, there was Apple at one point was going to go build a car. Like these companies have insatiable appetites for more and more and more and building more on that infrastructure and data and cash advantage. And so I would say never in terms of what kinds of markets you might see these folks in.
that's right. So from is eating the world to AI eating software, therefore needing to go more into the physical world. Very exciting times ahead. I hope to have you back on this show
Yes,
on your
please.
opinion as the post AI world unfolds.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ben.